Yet we're having problems funding the basics in our own country. As a union president, obviously, you're not at Barack Obama's side every day, but are these national issues now? Are people beginning to say, hey, these are related? We've got lots of money over here, but we don't have money for basic public safety, or and because a lot of people don't know that public services have been cut. This is not like a new thing. There have been incremental cuts for years, and over at least 10 years, I know, at least in the schools they've been cutting people. And,
well, certainly the way I look at it, I'm obviously not on the national level. I try to deal the best I can locally, but I see the economy as a teeter-totter. And on one side of the teeter-totter, you have entitlement programs. On the other side, you have the wealthy and tax cuts, tax loopholes, and issues such as that. Well, if one side or the other is too heavily weighted, obviously the teeter-totter goes up. Well, what happens then? You throw something over on the other side, the entitlement program, tax breaks. Well, eventually you have so much weight on both sides that in the middle becomes weak, and eventually that will snap. That middle, I think, is the middle class. And that's where, in my opinion, our nation, the middle class is being harmed. And that, quite frankly, both parties should be ashamed of themselves for what they're doing. The citizens of our nation certainly deserve better, and the bickering has got to stop. In the entitlement programs, there's probably too many. Okay, they need to be dealt with. However, on the other hand, tax loopholes and the wealthy, things for the wealthy need to be dealt with as well. So we need a balancing act. Now, it doesn't appear that we have any politician that is willing to do that balancing act. And for that, I say both parties should be ashamed of themselves.
Okay. What do you think is the, or what's the number one rank and file, like everyday work issue that maybe viewers, as far as work conditions, work safety, those kind of things that you deal with?
Well, that's a tough question, but I can tell you that on the minds of every one of our police officers is safety. Safety is the number one. In our country, we're seeing an astronomical number of police officers killed, yearly. The number of injuries sustained to our police officers through assaults is astronomical. When you look at those numbers, those have to be your biggest concern. Now, I've been in the police department for about 34 years. Certainly, you don't always talk about safety, but in the back of your mind, that's what is really paramount to you. Will you return home to your family? We got a lot of young people in this profession, and hopefully that they can return home to their young kids. Every day you read a story about a police officer that's killed in the line of duty or injured, and they leave behind several young kids, and it just rips at you. My whole family are police officers. My wife, my 3 sons are police officers. I have a nephew that's a police officer. So it's that's probably the biggest thing, is the safety.
Regarding safety, do you think it was a good idea for the concealed carry law to be extended to bars and alcohol?
Absolutely not. It was a terrible idea. I'm not sure what lobbyist group got that through, but I applaud them for their lobbying efforts, because I don't think anybody could got that through. It's going to cause issues in the bar. Certainly not everybody that goes into a bar drinks, but certainly I believe a lot of people that will go into a bar will.
That's what they go there for.
And that alcohol and guns do not mix. Now, if you want to have your guns for...
alcohol and walking barely mix.
If you want to have the guns for recreational purposes, great. Obviously, the Constitution allows for it. But I just can't see where it's a good idea to have guns.
Yeah, if someone has a gun on a group of people, is another gun going to make things really safer, or is it going to up the chance for something even much worse to happen? Say, like, because people, in that situation, if you've been around, I've never been around actually anyone shooting me, but there's an adrenaline that comes. I've been in the military. I've shot like every giant gun you can imagine. And there's an adrenaline that comes, and I can't imagine the adrenaline also multiplied by fear and panic that I would see people think that they're so clear-headed when something like that's going on. I think it's quite a challenge for police to stay clear-headed after, numerous hours
People
of
are
training.
human, and certainly what I fear is that when you have a gun, you're going to be more likely to encounter a disturbance or to get involved in something. Not necessarily where you're encountering another individual with a weapon, but the fact that you have a weapon now, and that little argument where someone spills a beer on somebody escalates. That's my fear, is that it's going to lead to escalation of minor issues, and nothing can come good of it.
What is the biggest problem? Is alcohol the biggest problem as far as safety issue in the city?
Absolutely not. Certainly the drugs are the biggest issue. We're getting a lot of violence involving just marijuana, where marijuana houses are being ripped off, shootings are occurring. You have the crack, you have the meth, you have all of that. Certainly there's always been the argument about marijuana and whether to legalize it. Maybe it should be something that should be explored. I don't know. But
Isn't the violence coming from the money that's involved in?
Certainly, yes it is. Issues like the drugs, we need to deal with that. Are we winning the war on drugs? No, but do we have to continue our sustained efforts? Most assuredly. A lot of good people's lives are being destroyed by drugs. Once they get on crack, they can't get off. A lot of good people have become addicted to crack and cocaine. Very good people. Their lives are wiped out. But when you become addicted to crack, you become very violent. We've had situations where people have killed their own parents to get money for crack. So that's the biggest issue in the city is the drugs. And a lot of our problems occur when people from other jurisdictions come into our city to buy drugs. And they're just not aware of the dangers, or they don't care.
If you had, if you were mayor, a strong mayor, I should say, of the city of Dayton, as far as like public safety issues, and you had what you needed at your disposal, what would be your top 5 decrees?
Well, it'd be a multifaceted approach, obviously. And I deal with perception, and I look at the downtown business district, and certainly I would want to create a strong downtown where our businesses stay, where they thrive, where we have people walking the streets again. And a lot of the perception, whether it's real perceived about downtown, is it's unsafe. Certainly when we had the horse patrol, that added a perception of safety. Certainly I would like to bring back something like that. I still would like to bring that out so that the perception has changed. We have the Dragons, we have the Schuster, we have other events in downtown Dayton. We have Riverscape, which is beautiful. But when people walk from Riverscape to their cars, how many of them ever see a police officer? They don't. They might see police officers on Riverscape. Five Rivers Metro have done a tremendous job with the parks in the area. But when you leave, you have very few police officers assigned to downtown. What do? They expand the downtown boundaries. So now you have the police officers that were once concentrated downtown, out on Wayne Avenue and out Brown Street and out that way. So very bad move on the reorganization. That's another thing that we have spent money. We reorganized the police department, spent tremendous amount of money moving detectives out the districts. We replicated services. We now have to, we had to buy additional equipment for 3 different groups, drop new computer lines in, a tremendous waste of money. So again, the city is so good on one hand and so bad on another. I'm not sure.
Do you think the city management realizes that the union is 50% of management?
I'm not sure about the question there, but
Well, one of the things labor law, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's one of the conferences I was at, in that, when there is a labor union in the workforce, their decisions, the management's half and the union's half. They both have to come together. Therein, the union representation is half of management.
well, years ago I took a management class from a retired FBI agent, and he said something to me that stuck with me. And he says, your number one customer in any organization should be your employee, because your employee actually makes your organization. And I thought about that for a while, and I said, he's absolutely correct. Now, the attitude toward employees in the city of Dayton has been the best. Now, I commend the city manager, Tim Reardon. We have sat down, we've worked with him. I think he's an excellent city manager. In fact, our last contract, it was settled by the city manager sitting down with myself and another union member and being perfectly frank and going back and forth, and the union asking, how much money do you need in concessions to make this work? And he gave me a number. I came back to my people, I sharpened my pencil. I was a little bit off. I came back and I said, this is the best I can do, which was very close to his number. He said, well, I really need this number, but let's go with it. So that type of working attitude between the city manager and at least the F.O.P. has been great. We sit down, we talk. So things are working pretty well. We now have a better relationship with the majority of the commissioners. So you're right that, if you have good labor relations within your organization, it certainly makes things go a lot better and makes the decisions a lot easier for management. But again, you can't make cuts at the rank and file level and then increase your bureaucracy. You're asking for trouble. And you'll see it in the near future. Maybe not with police because we're so low in staffing already, but certainly with Dayton Fire. When you want the rank and file to be leaner, your top has to be much leaner as well.
One more thing before I get going here. Do you think that the way that we do policing in Dayton and America can be improved by, one big thing that I thought makes a big difference on a street level is cops on bikes. Or police on bikes. Am I not supposed to use the word cops?
No, cops actually, it's not offensive, and that's what
Okay.
we used to be called.
Okay.
So that's not offensive at all.
Is it-
In the city of Dayton, we actually were one of the pioneers on bike patrol. We used to have a tremendous bike patrol program. And for whatever reason, we got away from it. I am a big advocate of bikes. Certainly you can't cover the area that you can in a motorized vehicle, but the type of work that you can do on a bike is certainly a lot greater. And there's another factor. It breaks down the barrier between the police and the community, where police officers can now more easily interact with the community. So I think that bikes are a tremendous asset. Even in a downtown area, I think the walking officers are a tremendous asset. Of course, currently right now with our staffing, I don't believe that we could do that. But I'm big on that. With our policing efforts, with our task forces, with interagency cooperation, where we put together a task force of several agencies. We can do things on a regional level. I don't believe that regional government in this area will ever come to pass, but we can do things regionally, such as regional training, regional buying, things of that nature that will be successful. So we can work together and save money, and ultimately saving the taxpayer money, and that's what it's about, but without losing efficiency and effectiveness.
Yeah, do you think that regionalism is going to have to break down there's a lot of people who would have to lose power That's,
Yes.
especially, I mean, just like all these little places.